Hello and welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, you'll learn how to use the Postgres create table statement to create a table in a database. Let's take a look at a typical syntax to create a table. So this is what a typical syntax looks like to create a table. You begin with the create table command, followed by the name of the table, and then in between the parentheses you specify the names of the columns the table will contain. A table can have as many columns as you wish to specify. So once you specify the name of the table, you then begin to define or specify the names of the column. So you start with a column name, followed by the data type, if it's going to be an integer, which is a number, or a text. And there are different types of textual data type. So you need to insert that. And then if you want a constraint on the column, you also need to add that. A constraint basically is a condition that you apply to a column. For example, you can add to a column that you don't want that column to be empty. There must be a value. That is a kind of constraint. So let's go over to our pgAdmin editor and create a table. I have already logged into the pgAdmin tool. So I'm just going to expand the list of databases. When you create a table, you need to create it in the correct database and schema. So I've got 3 databases listed here. The database I want to create a table on is this one here called fruits. So I'm going to expand that and then expand the schema, and you should see one for tables. There's only one table there. So what I need to do, I need to access the query editor. So I right click and go query tool. You can also access the query tool from the tools option and click on query tool. So I have now got my query tool open. So this is where I'm going to define my table. As you can see here in the editor, it says fruits on Postgres. So it knows that I am in the fruits database, which is this database here. So that's where I'm creating the table in. So I'll start with the create table command. Followed by the name I want to call the table. I'll call it berries, and then I have to enclose parentheses, and then I put my mouse in between the parentheses and expand it. So in between this parentheses is where I'll define the columns for the table. So the first column I'm going to define is going to be the ID. So I'm going to type in berry underscore ID. I'm going to make that the primary key. A primary key basically is a column or a group of columns that is used to identify a row that is unique in a table. If you are adding more columns, you put a comma at the end of the first column, and then you tab to the next line and then add another column. So I'm going to type in berry underscore name. Again, I need to specify the data type this time. It's going to be a varchar data type that will accept, that can allow 255 characters. And I'm going to set a constraint. A constraint basically means that you are applying some kind of restriction or a rule to that column. What not means that there must be a value in this column. That is, it cannot be empty. For illustration purposes, I'm just going to leave it with 2 columns. But you get the idea. You can add as many columns as you wish to in a table. But for this table, I'm just going to make it really simple and just leave it at 2 columns. So I want it to be a 2-column table for now. Once you're done, you need to put a semicolon at the end to indicate that you are done with creating the table. You can always add columns later when the table has been created. Once you're done, you can now execute the query to create the table by clicking on this here. So once you've executed, it tells you that query returns successful, so successfully created the table. It tells you the command you used. Notice that I've added a data type. You must always have a data type when you're creating a column, so that the column knows what type of data to expect. So here, after the name of the column, you need to add the data type. This is an ID column, which is going to be an integer, which is a number. So this int means integer. So that's the data type for this column. So basically, this is a simple format that you can use to create a table. You can make it as simple as this one or as complex, whereby you can also add a constraint to several columns within a table, or you can also add constraint to the table itself. So let's quickly query this table that we've just created to see if we can communicate with it. So I'm going to quickly write a select statement. I'll do select star from berries. It's very important to always just check what you've done, just to make sure everything checks out. Okay, so I'm highlighting that and I click. So you can see it's successful. It tells you we've got 2 columns in this table, tells you the data type, but there is no data inside the table. So we've got the table structure all in place, waiting for data input. Thank you for watching, and I hope the lecture has been useful. So this is how you create a table using Postgres create table command. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.